The Biggest Bug in Life. Chapter 1-5. In a fairly clean bubble tea shop on Southwell Street in Brentwood City, a stunning young woman, who had a pair of sunglasses and bright lipstick on, threw her sun hat on the glass table and said sternly to the young man in front of her, "Christopher Yard, let us break up." Break up. The man who went by Christopher immediately froze as he heard what the woman said and only came to his senses after some time before asking, "Why? Why?" With a sneer, Tina Jones repeated what Christopher said sarcastically. "You have no car, no house, and no savings. How dare someone like you who has nothing to your name ask me why? Christopher, don't you think this is ridiculous enough? A penniless wretch like yourself doesn't deserve to have a girlfriend." After saying this, Tina pushed the sunglasses up the bridge of her nose again, and then continued, "I won't bother to waste any more of my time with you. Now, tell me, how are you going to compensate me?" "Compensate?" Christopher asked with a confused expression. "What do you think?" Tina squinted at Christopher and said, "I've been dating you for the past 3 years. Those are 3 years of my youth wasted on a good-for-nothing like you. Don't you think I need some form of compensation? Or are you trying to run away from it? Ha! Stop trying to explain yourself." Immediately, Tina interrupted Christopher's sentence and stretched out her palm before asking, "Where's my stuff?" What stuff?" Christopher fell into confusion once again. "You told me you were going to buy me a Louis Vuitton handbag. So, where is it?" Tina raised her tone and continued, "I remember you said clearly that when you get your salary this month and save up to 20,000, you'd get me a designer bag. Well, today is the 15th. So it's the day you get your salary. Are you trying to get away with it?" As soon as this thought crossed her mind, Tina got even more worked up and said almost screamingly, "Let me tell you something, if you don't get me the bag that you've promised, you'll never hear the end of it. Louis Vuitton bag, Louis Vuitton bag." Suddenly, Christopher began to find this funny. The last thing he would have expected was for this woman to use up the last bit of his value before breaking up with him. "I must have been blind in college to have fallen in love with someone like this," Christopher thought to himself. "Designer bag. Ha! Sure thing. From now on, we won't have anything to do with each other anymore." After a moment of silence, Christopher brought out the exquisitely crafted pink designer satchel from under the round table. Seeing that, Tina snatched the bag over at once and glared at Christopher while saying, "This is what you owe me." As soon as she said that, she immediately left without even turning to look back. It was the 27th of June, in the year 2016. Christopher was broken up with and kicked away like nothing by his girlfriend that he had devoted all his time and money. In addition to the sadness and pain, surprisingly, he also felt some relief, as if he was now able to put down some baggage he had been burdened with for a long time. Perhaps the breakup was the right thing for him after all. At night, Christopher came back to his rental room around 11 o'clock. After eating a bowl of instant noodles and taking a quick shower, he immediately dozed off on his bed. Well, whether it was a disappointment or a fortunate occurrence, such was life. One would never know what would happen in the next second, and one most definitely should not be too focused on the past. Instead, one should look forward. In fact, one can only look forward. Deep in the night, the sky was full of stars. At this point, Christopher was completely knocked out. But it was at this exact time. Buzz, buzz, buzz. His phone, which he had previously turned off, suddenly vibrated. A ghostly blue light shone from the screen, lighting up the room. The next morning, Christopher was woken up by the sunlight that shone through his window and beamed on his face. causing him to squint and subconsciously block the ray of sunshine with his arms. At once, he sat up from his bed. After a night of rearranging his emotions, Christopher seemed to have calmed down a lot. Although he was not yet able to move on from the sorrows of his broken love, he no longer had the depressing emotions from yesterday. After freshening up, he walked downstairs and headed to the bus stop. It was probably too early, so there was basically no one on the bus. Sitting by the window seat, Christopher turned on his phone and habitually went onto Twitter. Married couple Y allegedly divorced secretly. Young celebrity W hooking up in Canada. A Chinese-Korean couple have allegedly broken up. Looking at the topics on the trending search list, Christopher was speechless for a while and mumbled to himself. How unscrupulous can these marketing accounts be? Always updating these good-for-nothing gossip topics. Can't they include something that brings more positive energy? They are the ones to blame for the current internet environment being so toxic and hostile. Saying that, Christopher shook his head helplessly and kept his phone away before closing his eyes to get some rest. However, just then, his attention fell on a new setting that he had never seen before on the upper right corner of his Twitter app. Thumbs up system. Christopher was puzzled. What is this? Is this Twitter's newly developed feature? Curiosity took over Christopher in the next second. He tapped onto the icon with his thumb. As soon as his thumb came into contact with the screen, whoosh, a whooshing sound that seemed to come from a blower rang in his head. Just then, he felt as if the world was turning upside down and inside out. He also felt as if his sense of smell and hearing had completely disappeared for a brief moment. While he was still in a daze, he seemed to have heard a robotic voice saying something mechanical that he didn't seem to recognize. Host selected. System binding. Host selected. System binding. Host. System. What the hell? Christopher felt really confused. What could have happened? It took him over 10 minutes to come back to his senses from the ridiculous situation. What the hell happened? After finally coming back to his senses, Christopher shook his head vigorously and muttered to himself. Wait. Could it be that I didn't eat breakfast in the morning and had hallucinations from hypoglycemia? But this doesn't make sense. Looking down on the interface of Twitter again, he found that the familiar interface has changed. Lucky draw system. Thumbs up online mall. As he saw those texts on his screen, Christopher frowned deeply. Now, what on earth is this? For every 100 thumbs up spent, you will obtain an opportunity to draw a lottery. While Christopher was figuring out the introduction of the lottery system, his brows furrowed even deeper. Is this an April Fool's joke? But I doubt Twitter's employees would go this far for a joke. Though. Well, should I just give it a try? For some reason, as Christopher blinked, he tapped on the spin button with a shake of his finger. With the pointer turning at the upper right corner of the Twitter interface, Christopher's total number of 321 likes had decreased to 221. At the same time, the golden roulette was also divided into 1 small and 4 large areas, 5 in total. The roulette wheel also showed some text options accordingly. Fire skill, knife skills, tasting skills and choosing skills. These words in the 4 large areas remained the same. But the smallest area was constantly changing to different words. The texts in the smallest area were changing too quickly and Christopher wasn't able to make them out at all. Approximately 2 seconds later, ding! The pointer stopped on the knife skills option. Congratulations, host. You have obtained a knife skill experience scroll. Your knife skill experience has increased by 100 points. And there are 9,900 points of experience before the next upgrade. The robotic voice said. What the actual F***ck? Christopher was extremely taken aback by the absurdity of the entire situation. So he couldn't help but let out a cuss. Can someone explain to me exactly what is going on here? Knife skills. Experience scroll. Are we playing online games here? Christopher felt that his intelligence was slowly leaving him. What about this thumbs up online mall? He turned his attention toward the screen again. What the hell could this be? Now that the lottery had already been drawn, he figured he should continue studying this thing further without hesitation. He clicked on the Thumbs Up Online Mall app again. Ding! It was as if an online store like Amazon had appeared in front of Christopher. The pages were covered with various recipes, kitchen utensils, equipment, and so on. Besides, he also saw peculiar items like strength bun, speed giza, brewing accelerators, and parallel universe kitchen appliance pack. Strength bun eater will have 10 times the power than original within 3 minutes after consumption. This costs only 100 likes. Seeing the description for the strength bun, Christopher almost let out a laugh. Man, what a joke. Why don't they say we become an Avenger after consumption? As if all of this is real. I bet none of this is real. He doubted the legitimacy of this so-called online mall. I want to be able to get anything legitimate. Christopher thought and clicked the Buy Now button below the strength bun at once. As soon as he did that, poof! All of a sudden, a white light flashed in front of his eyes and he immediately felt warmness in his palm. A steamed bun appeared in his hand. Moreover, the bun was still steaming hot as if it was fresh out of the oven. Gasp! Christopher gasped loudly. He was utterly shocked and dumbfounded, as he was trying to grasp the whole situation. His mouth and eyes were opened wide. If anyone who didn't know of his situation were to see his reaction, they would probably think he was a madman. What's happening? What the actual f***ck? Did this actually happen? Did this bun just appear out of thin air? Is someone messing around with me? This doesn't conform to the rules of logic and physics at all. A mobile app that can make steamed buns appear out of thin air, this ain't a fantasy novel. Wait. See, could it be that this thumbs up system is real after all? Christopher again mumbled to himself. Though seemingly unbelievable, it was the only explanation for this ridiculous situation. The bun was steaming hot, just like how Christopher felt in his chest, as if he had just recalled something. He immediately took a bite of the so-called strength bun. Gulp! As he swallowed the last mouthful of the bun, a warm current flowed through Christopher's body. He felt hot all over, as if his body was surging with immense power just waiting to be exerted. And he could even hear the mitochondria in his cells running wildly, making an electrical crackling sound. In the next second, snap! He accidentally bent the metal handle in front of his bus seat. Holy Mother of God! Christopher had totally turned into a Spartan. If it weren't for the fact that his surroundings looked too real, he would have thought that he was actually dreaming. Hooray! This is it. This is it. After a moment of shock, he finally came back to his senses from his baffled state. Immediately, he began to cheer in his seat, causing the bus driver to constantly look back at him through the rear mirror while he was acting like a crazy person. With this system, I will be able to avenge myself. Tina, all of a sudden. Christopher squinted and smirked. You will definitely regret leaving me. At that moment, he was filled with confidence that he never once had. When Christopher had finally calmed himself down, he had arrived at the Serenade. Before he entered the restaurant, he quickly tidied his outfit and walked in with a swagger. Hey, isn't he Chris from the kitchen? At the front desk of the Serenade, a pretty girl with long hair looked at Christopher and asked. Yeah. Why? The other waitress with a ponytail next to her replied. Don, do you think he seems a little different? The girl with long hair asked again. Different? How so? I can't say for sure. The girl with long hair continued after giving it some thought. But in short, I feel that he has suddenly gained a strong aura. Aura? After being reminded by her companion. The girl with the ponytail nodded. In fact, she did feel this way too. The Serenade was a restaurant about 2 stories high. It was quaint and unique. Christopher worked in this restaurant as a kitchen porter. It was only 9 o'clock when he arrived at his workplace. Since it was not peak hour, the kitchen was rather free. However, what made him feel a little strange was that all the chefs that used to not even glance at him were all looking at him weirdly today. Almost immediately, it sent chills down Christopher's spine seeing how he was being watched by a group of big guys this way. Tommy, what's going on? Why is everyone looking at me this way? Christopher asked as he held on to one of his colleagues that he had a fairly good relationship with. What's going on? Thomas turned around and repeated what Christopher said. At once, he glanced up and down at Christopher and said, "You're in so much trouble. Do you even know that?" Christopher felt even more puzzled when he heard Thomas say that with a serious expression. He raised his eyebrow and asked again, "What do you mean?" "Don't blame me for not telling you sooner," Thomas said as his lips curled into a frown. "Just remember that no matter what happens later, just stay calm and accept whatever comes your way. If you do that, you might still be able to get this month's paycheck. If you don't." After saying this, Thomas sneered a few times before turning around and leaving. This made Christopher dumbfounded. Obviously, he didn't know what Thomas was talking about. So, without thinking too much about it, he headed straight into the locker room. As he was changing into his uniform, Leroy from the Human Resources Department approached the changing room and knocked on the door. "Christopher Yard, Chef Woods and the managing director are waiting for you inside the meeting room." The managing director? Christopher was surprised. Hayden was the head chef of the Serenade, so it was normal for the chef to look for him. But what about Luna Sears, who he rarely saw in the restaurant? What does she want with me? Christopher couldn't help but wonder. With countless thoughts racing in his mind, Christopher entered the meeting room. Knock. Knock. After knocking on the door slightly, Christopher turned the doorknob to enter the room. However, before he could even stand straight and look clearly into the room, his expression immediately changed as he noticed someone inside who he never would have expected to be there. Tina Jones. What the hell is she doing here? Christopher's expression didn't look good. All that talk about being friends after breaking up was nothing more than utter bullshit, he thought. At least right now, he couldn't even bring himself to think about being acquainted with someone like her. The both of them noticed each other almost immediately, only that Tina did nothing but roll her eyes and shoot him a disdainful smirk. Next to Tina was a bald, middle-aged man with a greasy face and huge ears. This man was none other than Christopher's immediate boss and the head chef of the Serenade, Hayden Woods himself. As for the fashionable and charming lady who was wearing a professional suit and leaning on the swivel chair while looking down at some documents, that was Luna Sears, the real boss of the Serenade. She was a woman whose true age was indistinguishable. However, judging from her face, this woman was about 22 years old. But the maturity and grace she displayed definitely did not belong to a woman of her age. Her oval face, tall nose, lovely arched eyebrows, cherry lips, soft eyes, and pink ears were just like the facial features of a character that came straight out of a painting. They were simply too exquisite. Moreover, her skin was white as jade and she had a fiery body figure, one that could make a man ruin himself. Christopher couldn't say for sure if it was because the white shirt she had on her was a size too small, but the buttons of her shirt, especially the ones around her chest area, were clinging on for dear life. What a sight to see. However, what really made Christopher's heartbeat speed up the most was her pair of fair and seemingly tender thighs. They looked as if they were perfectly sculpted by God himself, which could cause men to burst into a nosebleed instantly. She was simply God's most divine creation. Christopher felt as though he could play with these legs for 100 years, and it was not an exaggeration. This woman was simply deadly. Compared to Luna, who was ripe and sweet like a peach, Tina much more resembled a sour green apple. The two weren't of the same level at all. In Brentwood City, the number of men who were after Luna was innumerable, and if they were to line up, they would span from one end of the city to the other. Among them were some wealthy entrepreneurs and some upstarts in the financial circle. Even then, for many years, Luna remained single ever since her last husband died in a car accident. She had never laid eyes on another man. There was no doubt that Luna's figure and appearance were unrivaled. But she was not merely a vase that was pretty on the outside but empty on the inside. Her abilities were incomparable as well. It was said that she was the one who saved the Serenade from the verge of bankruptcy and led it to the level of prestige that it was at now. Luna not only looked good and had an exquisite body figure, but she also had outstanding capabilities as well. This kind of woman would make most men feel ashamed. Usually, whenever Christopher ran into Luna in the restaurant, he would always walk with his head down and dared not to even glance at her. However, not even he could tell what happened to him today, but he didn't feel ashamed to look at her at all. It was as if he had changed his personality entirely. "Miss Sears. Chef. I was told you were looking for me." Withdrawing his gaze from Luna, Christopher said calmly as he entered the meeting room and closed the door behind him. "Yes." Luna didn't say a word. And instead, Hayden responded indifferently. "Miss Sears and I still have some matters to deal with. We'll deal with yours later." Sparing Christopher no thought, Hayden turned and again tried to convince Luna flatteringly. "What do you think, Miss Sears? My girlfriend, Tina, used to work as a captain of a 5-star hotel, and I assure you that she is fully qualified to serve as the head of our restaurant's food and beverage department." "Sure." After closing the file in her hand, Luna said, "I have gone through Miss Jones' resume. She does meet the basic employment requirements of our restaurant. Miss Jones, you may start work tomorrow." "Thank you, Miss Sears." Upon hearing this, Hayden's eyes lit up immediately. A grin bloomed on his old face like a flower. With that, he hurriedly pulled Tina closer and demanded, "Come on. Hurry up and thank Miss Sears at once." Ah! Finally coming back to her senses, Tina thanked Luna again and again gratefully. The vacancy of head of food and beverages had finally been decided. Hayden and Tina were extremely excited. However, Christopher, who was standing right next to Hayden, became even more puzzled. "Wait, girlfriend." As soon as this thought crossed his mind, he immediately froze. He understood everything now. When Tina came to the restaurant to visit him in the past, he recalled bumping into Hayden and Tina chatting happily together. At the time, he thought nothing of it and figured it was probably just a friendly chat. But now that he thought back at it again, they were clearly flirting with each other. Wow! It took her less than 24 hours to find a new man, and Hayden even tried so hard to get Tina hired in the Serenade. If someone were to say that the two had nothing going on before, I'd call bullshit. Chef King cheated on me. Christopher's eyes were about to burst into flames as he glared at Tina. If he hadn't tried his best to restrain it, he would have rushed forward and given the both of them a tight slap. After taking a few deep breaths, he finally managed to calm himself down. Of course, Hayden and Tina didn't clearly see Christopher's expression, but he reckoned they probably wouldn't have cared even if they did. Once they were done with Tina's employment, Luna turned to look at Christopher. With her red lips, she said. "You're a kitchen staff, aren't you, Christopher Yard?" "Yes." Repressing the anger burning in his chest, Christopher nodded and answered. "Do you know why we called you here?" Christopher only remained silent. "Woods, this was your request after all. Why don't you handle this yourself?" Luna said. Originally, she wanted to continue on her own. But for some reason, she changed her mind. Subsequently, she massaged her temples gently to relieve her headache and left it to Hayden. "Sure, Miss Sears. I'll take over from here." Hayden's excitement was through the roof since he had finally gotten Tina hired in the restaurant. He smiled, then acted like an elder while facing Christopher and said, "Chris, you've been working in our company for 3 years now, haven't you?" As soon as he heard the man's question, Christopher merely smiled slightly without denying it. "Well, since you are considered an old employee, then you should be crystal clear about the company's rules and regulations, right?" "No doubt." Christopher nodded. "And since you are so familiar with the company's rules and regulations, let's take a look at how you actually do your job." Hayden's expression changed as he said this. In the next second, he took out a pre-recorded video and threw it in front of Christopher. "See for yourself. I'll let the video speak for itself." Hayden's tone was stern and Tina was gloating. Christopher, on the other hand, seemed extremely calm. He remained stoic and instead watched the video quietly. He saw himself in the video and it was full of recordings of him on his mobile phone while he was in the kitchen. Besides that, based on the time frame, the videos were all captured during working hours. At this point, he finally understood what Thomas meant by accepting his fate. "Hayden, I don't understand." Christopher had long anticipated the cause of this entire incident. But he still pretended not to understand anything, and he even changed the way he normally addressed Chef Woods to calling him by his name. "Don't he understand? How dare he?" Almost immediately, Hayden was furious when he heard that Christopher addressed him with his name directly. After touching his shiny forehead, he questioned, "Don't the contents of the video explain themselves? Using your phone during work hours. Are there any employees like you? You're such a loafer. You only take your salary from the restaurant. But you don't pull your weight. Why would the restaurant need a parasite like you? That's it. I don't want to say any more to you, Christopher Yard. This is an official notification that you've been fired." Hayden pointed at Christopher's nose and cursed. "Fired." Christopher froze upon hearing that word. However, his surprised expression was swiftly replaced by a calm and collected one. In fact, he had long expected something like this to happen. In reality, Hayden's main purpose was not to drive out Christopher, the so-called parasite, for the sake of the restaurant. But it was only because he was unable to stand Tina's ex-boyfriend dangling under his nose every day, violating the company's rules and regulations. They were all merely excuses. In the past 3 years, while he was with the Serenade, although he was just a kitchen porter and did all of the insignificant work such as cutting potatoes and washing the dishes, he worked earnestly. That video of him using his mobile phone was just a lousy excuse to fire him after all. From 9 to 10 in the morning and 2 to 3 in the afternoon when the restaurant is in off-peak hours and there is no business at all. What's wrong with using my phone? Hayden Woods. You even hid in the office and watched pornographic movies. Why don't you call yourself a parasite too? Fine. With a sneer, Christopher looked coldly at Hayden and Tina. It seems that you are not going to spare me at all. Ha! Seeing that Christopher had remained silent all this while, Hayden got even more arrogant. At once, he raised his head to look down at Christopher condescendingly and threatened him. You should just do as I say. Grab your stuff and get lost. Don't embarrass us and yourself anymore. Otherwise, your salary for this month will be forfeited too. You hear me? Ha ha. Christopher lowered his head and began laughing loudly and hysterically. His laughter sent goosebumps all over Hayden and Tina's bodies. Even Luna couldn't help but look up at him. In an almost icy tone, he said, "Wow, Hayden Woods. I am indeed incomparable to you when it comes to bullshitting. I am a parasite who does nothing except for taking a salary. Ha, man. Don't you find it extremely ridiculous coming from you? We both know the real reason why you want to drive me away. But I won't say this out loud cause it's too damn embarrassing. You can't bear to see me. Right? I, too, can't bear to see the both of you sickos. Fire me. No. If asterisk king quit." After saying this, Christopher slammed the door and walked away. Bang. The sound of the door slamming on the door frame was so loud it shocked Hayden. He angrily said to Luna, "Miss Sears, look at the quality of the employees these days." Luna left it at that. However, something did flash through her soft eyes as she watched Christopher leave. It was July and the weather was hot. But Christopher felt cold inside. He broke up with Tina a day ago. On top of that, he became unemployed 10 minutes ago. He recalled Hayden telling him to grab his stuff and get lost. But honestly, there weren't many things there for him to pack up. Aside from the chef's robe that he had worn for more than 3 years that he was reluctant to hand back in. Well, since he quit his job, he had no choice but to take it off. After changing out of his robe, he folded it neatly and put it back in the locker. As he turned and prepared to go outside, Hayden walked over with Tina in his arms. "Can't they stop haunting me everywhere I go? Oh, are you too sad to let go?" Hayden looked askance at Christopher and said in a strange way, "Who was the one who pretended to be tough in front of Miss Sears just now? Even going so far as to get all worked up and saying that you quit. What a joke. Are you even qualified to say that?" As soon as he said that, Hayden's expression changed again before he turned to ask Tina, "My dear, how did you even fall in love with this man in the first place? You shouldn't have ever." "I don't even know." Tina merely spread her hands and shrugged while pretending to be innocent. "When I was in college, I thought he had good looks, so I just dated him. Who knew that he would turn out to be such a loser after graduation? I was even with him for 3 years. What a big loss." "A big loss indeed." Hayden nodded in agreement. "But it doesn't matter now. You lost out when you were with him. But with me, you won." As he said this, he chuckled again. Just then, he placed his wrinkled face on Tina's cheek and said, "My dear, you see, I bought you the cosmetics and even the bags you wanted. Tonight." Hayden didn't finish his sentence, but it was obvious what he actually meant. "You dirty little flirt." Tina of course understood what Hayden was trying to say. She smiled flirtatiously and poked Hayden's forehead with her index finger, showing no signs of rejection. All right then. After the successful courtship, Hayden was as excited as a baboon who was about to mate. "We'll meet at 9 o'clock tonight at the Four Seasons Hotel. See you there, rain or shine." "Okay." Tina nodded coyly. Heh. Hayden laughed satisfyingly. He was excited, extremely so. He took away Christopher's job, stole his girlfriend away, and even brought her along to show off in front of the poor man, a great feat he hadn't managed in many years. On top of that, he was going to climb into her bed today. How could he not be excited? After adjusting his pants, Hayden thought to himself, "Should I just devour the bottle of Viagra that I have been hiding in my drawer tonight, so that my power can last longer? I want to show Tina what a real man is." Seeing how obnoxiously affectionate Hayden and Tina were and even how they were talking about such intimate things without hesitation in front of him made Christopher clench his fists in anger. It had been 3 years, 3 whole years, where he had spent so much time and energy on Tina. Yet he had never even touched this woman's hand, let alone kiss her. And now, for just a few bags and some cosmetics, she would throw herself in another man's arms. Is she really so materialistic? If that is the case, then what am I to her? Was I just a spare tire that she could kick away whenever she wanted? Or was I simply a free meal ticket? Christopher was clenching his jaw so hard it almost crushed his teeth. Not only that, but his face was extremely gloomy. Why? Are you angry? Seeing Christopher's gloomy expression, Hayden felt even more proud. Yeah, you should be. You're now unemployed because of me and I stole your girlfriend. How could you not be angry? But what's the use of being mad at this point? Hayden purposely paused when he was talking. After a long while, he continued. What can you change? In the end, you're just a mere kitchen helper who cuts potatoes and washes the dishes. You're a good for nothing. How can you compare to me? Christopher, it's not that I am purposely going against you, but someone like you would never become a chef. Never become a chef. Never become a chef. What Hayden said continued to echo in Christopher's mind. The words were constantly stimulating his nerves. And at once, the anger burst out like an erupting volcano. Christopher could tolerate Hayden getting himself involved in his work. And he could also bear to see him stealing Tina away, as he knew this woman was not good for him either. However, the one thing he couldn't bear to hear was his career as a chef being insulted like this. Everyone had their bottom lines, not to mention Christopher himself. You son of a b*tch. Couldn't he hold his anger in anymore? Christopher raised his fist and punched directly at Hayden's nose. Bam! There was a muffled sound followed by a crack as if something was broken. Hayden took a few steps back. Thick blood flowed out of his nostrils. It seemed that he didn't expect Christopher to start a fight, so it took him a while to come back to his senses. Why you punched me? Hayden said chokingly, finally realizing what had happened. Hayden gently touched his nose that went numb, and then looked at the scarlet blood on his fingers. He pointed and looked at Christopher with nothing but horror. What's so wrong about punching a prick like you? Christopher had no plans on backing down. You? Hayden was infuriated. Immediately, he rushed up planning to fight Christopher with his life. If it weren't for Tina who was blocking him, the old man might have been beaten into a pulp by Christopher. Calm down. Calm down. Tina tried to calm Hayden down while cleaning up the blood streaming out of his bleeding nose. He's a barbarian. What are you doing fighting with him? Remember who you are. You have the French blue ribbon badge. Whoever owns this badge is an elite chef. So you can't lose your value because of someone like him. He is nothing compared to you. Tina had been quietly consoling him, but Hayden couldn't seem to calm down at all. He was Hayden Woods, for God's sake. The best chef in the Serenade. Except for Luna. Anyone who worked in the Serenade would show respect whenever they saw him. But now, he, a head chef, was beaten up by a small cook who had just been fired by him. How dare Christopher Yard do this to me? Who does he think he is? That is it. That is it. I am going to make him pay. With that thought in mind, Hayden howled like a mad dog. Christopher Yard, I want to have a one-on-one with you. I want to do it right now. With his face flushed from anger, Hayden stretched his neck and said as if he was going to swallow someone alive. Aren't you dissatisfied? I said that you can't ever become a chef. And you can't accept that. Can you? Sure. I will take you on in cooking skills. If I lose, you don't have to leave the Serenade. I will. However, if you lose, You'll have to crawl under my crotch. How about it? Do you dare take on this challenge? Hayden roared out the last sentence in an almost deranged state. Christopher had never been an impulsive man. He was provoked. Yes. But he was not out of his mind. Even though Hayden's personality was only horrible, his cooking skills were indeed out of this world. The owner of the French Blue Ribbon badge, this title was not something to brush off, it represented a great achievement for a chef. Christopher, on the other hand, was merely a kitchen porter who had only been cutting potatoes and washing dishes in the back kitchen for 3 years. He had barely even touched the chopping board in the past years. The difference in skill between the two was too great for him to take on Hayden's challenge. In fact, it would have been completely absurd. However, sometimes, there were fights we couldn't avoid just because we thought there wasn't any hope, especially when there were still soldiers who sacrificed themselves on the battlefield. Accepting this face-off was nothing compared to that. Besides, if I were to run away like a coward now, it would be no different from crawling under that son of a B*****'''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''***************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** All right. I'll accept your challenge. Christopher asked while gritting his teeth. How are we going to do this? Knife skills. Seeing that Christopher had actually agreed, Hayden sneered again. Just then, he arrogantly yelled. Knife skills are undoubtedly the best way of expressing the basic skills of a chef. I want to see how you can beat me at this. The Serenade's kitchen at this moment seemed to be livelier than before. The already small space was now surrounded by employees of the restaurant. Not only the other chefs but the young and beautiful waitresses were there too. Those who should have been there and those that should not were all there, as news of the competition had spread throughout the restaurant. Everyone was whispering to each other, discussing something. How ruthless can this Hayden be? Not only did he take away Chris' job and steal his girlfriend, but now this. He really is planning to make Chris' life miserable. Ha! All lay loads on the willing horse. Speaking of which, Chris is just too navi. I bet Hayden had long noticed this about Chris. That's why he dared to trample him to death. Well, why did Chris agree to do this? Then, he must know that he wouldn't be able to win. How would I know? Maybe he couldn't bear to just give up like that. The kitchen was chaotic. Everyone looked at Christopher with a sympathetic look. Him, a mere helper who hadn't touched the chopping board ever, was up against the owner of the French blue ribbon badge. Wasn't the result of this competition obvious enough? Just when everyone was feeling sorry for Christopher, a charming figure appeared at the back of the kitchen. After seeing who it was, everyone involuntarily quieted down. Miss Sears, someone from the crowd exclaimed. Upon hearing that Luna was here, Christopher raised his eyebrows. Right now, Hayden's expression had completely changed. He was now as submissive as a begging pig compared to the arrogance he displayed just now. It was like he was a completely different person. He then said flatteringly, Miss Sears, why are you here? Making her way through the crowd, Luna looked at Hayden and Tina with an indifferent look before saying slowly, I heard about everything. Woods, you went overboard this time. Thanks for listening to the Bravonovel audiobook. Welcome to download the Bravonovel app. Read the novel The Biggest Bug in Life online and get the latest updates.